Sucheta Singh at Ross Bay Cemetery, and you're watching our special stepping away from our regular Go Island programming to bring you a special Halloween show, and I'm joined by John Adams, who, of course, you're busy this time of the year with the ghost tours and
It's our busiest time of the year.
Yeah, so our people are probably really interested right now.
We've had lots of people come. Everyone wants a ghost story at Halloween.
Yeah, we're down here at Ross Bay Cemetery, and there's a lot of stories out of here, but you have one in particular.
Well, there are 28,000 graves at the cemetery, but I'll tell you one ghost story out of many, and it involves the grave right here. It's a grave to the Fee family, but particularly I'm going to talk about David Fee, whose name is on this side, a bit difficult to see in the shadows. David Fee was 21 years old when he was gunned down on Christmas Eve 1890 on the steps of St. Andrew's Cathedral. It turns out it was a case of mistaken identity. And it started off when David came back from Nanaimo, where he was living, to visit his folks for Christmas. They said, "David, we're going to midnight mass. You must join us," and he promised he would. But in the meantime, his friend said, "Oh, Dave, there's a party going on. It's a masquerade party. We'll find you a costume. You come." And so he agreed, and they found him a costume. He was a big man. It was a white clown suit. And he stepped away from the party briefly to visit his folks at church. But it was crowded. He couldn't get in, and he decided he would sneak back to the party. And he left the church. And there's more to come.
All right, there you go. We have more coming throughout the show, so you have to stay tuned as we bring you more of the ghost story. But first, speaking of getting into the Halloween spirit, our James Green got all dressed up and he hit the streets of Sydney to find out just how scary it can be.
This anchor is very scary. It gives me a sinking feeling.
Sydney by the sea, a flat, derelict piece of urban wasteland where the average rent of a two-bedroom suite is $1,200. Ooh, a seasonal tourist trap. Populated by the newlywed and the nearly dead.
I look extremely handsome in this reflection.
A quick stop at the scary Winspear Centre to practice driving, because everyone here drives the speed limit.
Well...
My cunning plan to play games with the people of Sydney, tempting them to the dark side using trick-or-treat candy.
It's surprising what people will do for candy.
Then we'll see just how evil this quaint Vancouver Island suburb can become.
Are you able to howl like a wolf of the night?
Well, is it a full moon?
Yes, let's pretend it is.
How's that?
That's pretty scary. You deserve a candy.
Oh, thank you so much. Just what I need.
That's the spirit.
Oh, no. Are you having a howl of a time? Nice, you deserve a candy.
I certainly do.
I will shower you with candies. Hold out your hands. Nice.
Just when I thought I was scary,
I love you.
Shaw TV's Kimmer Rock begins to spin her web, entangling me into Miss Bliss, a ghastly women's boutique, where the devilish damsels of Shaw TV have gathered for a photo shoot, loathing in self-admiration.
It's going to be between the blondes and the brunettes. The object of the game is to wrap your partner in toilet paper like a mummy. The fastest and the best wrapped will win lots and lots of candy.
I lived in Egypt in a past life, so I'm good at this.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, in 3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, good.
And Karen is off to a good start. Oh, now Nikki has a technique.
Great head start. Yeah. Deep net. I'm getting so dizzy.
Nikki is getting dizzy.
You can even just pass the toilet paper around and stay in one spot.
That looks very neat, Nikki.
I'm looking spooky.
Look over here. Look over this one. It's all falling apart.
Look at this. I'm so dizzy.
I think we have a winner.
Yeah.
Right here. What happened over here?
Honestly, so dizzy. I don't know. But I just really wanted to win.
This is what blondes do. They want to be attention seekers. They cry. They whine.
To Jen and Nikki, you get lots of candy.
Yeah.
To Karen and Kim, they get lots of toilet paper.
Yes,
There you go.
This is awesome. I'm so excited. Thank you.
They're gonna be fat.
In Sydney, my name is Mr. Skeleton.
David Fee discovered that the church was crowded, and so he decided to sneak back to the party with his friends. And as he stepped out, he didn't realize that Lawrence Whalen was waiting in the shadows. Lawrence Whalen had a gun, and Lawrence Whalen was waiting for one particular man with whom he'd had an argument. It was a political argument, an Irish political argument, and he decided he was going to kill Tom Daisy, the fire chief. And he knew that Tom Daisy would be easy to spot because Tom Daisy had a white overcoat. It was sort of a raincoat, very fashionable in those days to have a white coat. And so as Whalen waited for the man in white, he saw the figure leave the church, ran up, put the gun in the figure's chest and pulled the trigger. Of course, Mass was not over, but suddenly the gun explosion echoed through the church, everything stopped, everybody came piling out and found David Fee in his clown suit lying on the sidewalk right in front of the church. At the time, nobody realized that the gun had been really intended for Tom Daisy, nor that Lawrence Whalen was the assassin, but Whalen had run away, but eventually turned himself in. And then, before Sir Matthew Bailey Begbie, the Chief Justice, in the old courthouse down in Bastion Square, the story began to unfold.
And speaking of Bastion Square, we know Victoria is a haunted city, and the Maritime Museum down in Bastion Square is said to be haunted, and that used to be the old courthouse where Judge Begbie resided. So Jen Moranitz paid a visit to the Maritime Museum, which is, of course, in Bastion Square, for some ghostly advice from a group of paranormal investigators.
Written on spooky websites, printed in ghost books, recited by storytellers. When it comes to the city of Victoria, it's said that we are no doubt haunted. This is what some of our video looked like after we came back from shooting a story on spirits. My first thought, a ghost is messing with our camera. Luckily, it was just a minor technical error. Whether you believe it or not, there are people in this town that make a living at chasing ghosts. We met up with a group of paranormal investigators called Beyond Belief, checking out this city's holy grail of spooky places, Judge Begbie's courtroom in the Maritime Museum.
He became the first Chief Justice of British Columbia, and this actual building was built for him. The room that we're in right now is his courtroom. That's where he did most of his cases.
You know, I've done hundreds of investigations in the UK, and I would say the Maritime Museum is probably one of the most haunted locations that I've ever investigated in.
Leading the investigation is Dawn Kirkham, a clairvoyant medium of over 12 years. Dawn says this means she has a sixth sense.
I rely on my intuition to nudge me in directions, and the trick is to pay attention to it.
She's met other mediums who volunteer their time with Beyond Belief to do private and public investigations.
Dawn and her team will use an assortment of objects to connect with spirits, things that you already would expect, such as recorders and cameras, but they'll also use simple items like a glass or some dye, a Scrabble board, and even a ball.
One tool Dawn showed me was an audio recorder called an electronic voice phenomenon. She says it can pick up sounds we're not able to hear. So we took a seat in what's said to be the most active corner in the courtroom and hit record.
So if there's any spirits in the room that would like to talk to us, can you come and talk to us through this device? It can pick up your voice. Were you tried in this courtroom? or a member of the family of somebody who was tried. So I can't tell you how many hours of footage I've listened to and heard nothing back. So it's very, very rare to get something back, and when you do, it's a phenomenal experience.
Since we didn't register anything, Dawn let me listen to a past recording. She believes it's a voice saying, "Go away."
And the out almost sounds like there's like an Irish brogue to it, like bite.
Another way to record video, infrared cameras. This monitor shows 4 of them set up around the courtroom, designed to capture anything unusual.
99.9% of orbs are dust or insects that just, you know, the play that they have with the IR camera and the lights make them look fascinating.
We only caught dust today, but Dawn says that's still part of the experience.
Play with the equipment, experience what we experience, talk to us, and then, you know, make up your own mind as to whether, you know, you think there is something going on when we transition from our physical bodies.
So whether you're a believer or a skeptic, it's an experience that just might get you thinking about the supernatural. From Judge Begbie's courtroom in Victoria, I'm Jen Moranitz.
We're going to take a quick break now, and just coming off of Bastion Square is where our story with John Adams takes place after the break. But up next, we'll visit a haunted island near Nanaimo.
We got a nice fire going here. It's an excellent night to camp.
Do you know what's happening? Well, we do. Here's what's happening. A diverse and star-studded team of surfers, filmmakers, scientists, and environmentalists will present Groundswell and Reflections, art for an oil-free coast. This opposition to the Northern Gateway pipeline proposal is scheduled for Friday at 5:15 p.m. and advance bookings on Eventbrite is a must. If you would like to volunteer for Shaw TV, we have regular training programs and would love to hear from you. We're also interested in hearing from you if you have story ideas. Contact us at go_islandsouth@shaw.ca. Sustainable seafood will be paired with local craft beer for a delicious evening in support of the Shaw Ocean Discovery Center. Professional chefs will create the delicacies and live recipe demos, and there will be raffle prize draws as well. The event happens this Friday night. Order tickets online at seafooddrinkbeer.wordpress.com. And that's what's happening.
Welcome back to Halloween Howling. We are down here in Ross Bay Cemetery in Victoria with John Adams, who has his ghostly tours happening this time of year and, of course, throughout the year. But it's a busy time for you, and we are just at part of our story where it takes place in Bastion Square with Judge Begbie.
Judge Begbie, the Chief Justice, until his death in 1894, was listening to the case of Lawrence Whalen, who was charged with first-degree murder for killing David Fee on the steps of the cathedral on Christmas Eve, 1890. Begbie was convinced that Fee had been shot in error, but that it was still premeditated murder and that Lawrence Whalen should hang for this. Now, he was called the hanging judge, but often I believe that was probably not the correct name for him. He did send some people to the gallows, but not as many as people think. But he wanted to send Lawrence Whalen to the gallows, but he didn't have the chance because the jury didn't believe that Whalen actually really had meant to do it. There was some degree of doubt, and Begbie pounded his fist on the bench, and at the Maritime Museum, late at night when the cleaners are there by themselves, they still hear his fist pounding the bench even though nobody is there. He sent the jury back several times to reconsider, but they always came back with a verdict of manslaughter. And very reluctantly, Begbie sentenced Lawrence Whalen to a life in prison, not to the gallows. The story did unfold, and there are many details that are a little confusing. But, in fact, it turns out that Lawrence Whalen really was waiting for Tom Daisy, wearing white, and mistook him for David Fee, as David Fee snuck away from the party, and as David Fee snuck away from the church to go back to the party. And, well, was it mistaken identity? Was it premeditated? It was obviously premeditated. He just shot the wrong person. And I think that's why Begbie was so angry when he sentenced Lawrence Whalen to a life in prison. However, there's more to this story, of course, because this is a ghost story. So this is really just the beginning.
All right, and you were talking about Begbie, but people still see him around the Maritime Museum as well.
Begbie is seen frequently. There are many ghost entities in the Maritime Museum. Begbie not only can be heard pounding his fist on the bench in the restored courtroom, but he's actually seen gliding down the main staircase. And as you might know, it's an old staircase. It creaks and groans with every footstep. But Begbie, in his black judicial robes, is gliding silently above the stairs. He's also sometimes seen entering one of the old courtrooms that is now used as a library, but he doesn't open the door. He simply dissolves right through it without opening the door.
Imagine working in that place. And is that part of your ghost tours?
We tell the story of the Maritime Museum as we're passing by on our ghostly walks. Yes.
That's great. All right. We'll get more about the story of Fee and Wayland because it is a ghost story. We'll get more about that coming up. But first, if you've ever been to Newcastle near Nanaimo, you'll know it's a beautiful place. But what you may not know is that it has a haunted past. Annette Lucas has our story.
It's a boater's paradise just off the east coast of Vancouver Island. Newcastle Island Provincial Marine Park has an intriguing history, but not all believe it's safe to venture there after dark.
We got a nice fire going here. It's an excellent night to camp. Kind of worried, Bill. I heard it was one of the most haunted places in the Pacific Northwest. What gives?
The real story is the presence of an axe murderer buried on the island. A true story. It deals with a gentleman who was from the Hawaiian Islands, a Kanaka called Peter Kakua, and he arrived in Nanaimo eventually after working in Victoria, married a local lady, had a young daughter, and was happy in Nanaimo until all of a sudden his wife said one day, "I'm sorry, Pete, I don't want to live with you anymore." And Pete got quite upset by this. He went out drinking. And when he came home that night about 2 o'clock in the morning, he found his wife and infant and mother and father-in-law all sleeping in his cabin.
What's going on here?
Peter was drunk. Anyway, a fight and an argument got going, and in the skirmoil and the tussle, somebody bit Peter's thumb off, and this must have really enraged him. Peter somehow picked up an axe and started to flail about indiscriminately. And all of a sudden, everything went quiet. Peter collapsed on the floor, fell asleep from his drunken stupor. And when he woke up the next morning, there was pools of blood all around. His young daughter was been decapitated. His wife had one of her arms cut off, and some of her intestines were hanging out. Mother and father-in-law were both dead. Poor old Pete. He then, oh boy, I'm in trouble. So he just locked the door and bolted. Had a canoe hidden under the dock and paddled around, heading for Vancouver. Well, Vancouver wasn't there then. It was called going across. Anyway, he got around as far as Kanaka Bay and made up a small fire and basically fell asleep. The powers that be found out about the murder, and they came looking for Peter, and they found him. He was incarcerated in the jail underneath the bastion, taken to Victoria, tried, found guilty of the 4 murders, sent back to Nanaimo, put back in the jail under the bastion, and a couple days later, he was taken outside the bastion and he was hung. So they decided the only thing to do was take him over to Newcastle Island, which was owned by the Hudson Bay Company, and they buried him in an unmarked grave at Kanaka Bay. It sounds simple. 30 years later, they were doing some exploratory work for the coal shaft over there, and they came across a box with a skeleton inside and a beautiful pair of shoes. The miners were absolutely horrified. They realized this was Kanaka Pete. And so they took him back, and Pete had a second life. They took him back to Newcastle Island. They buried him again in an unmarked grave, but Peter was still not very happy. So the rumor has it that at Newcastle Island here, just at dusk, Peter patrols the island looking for young people that he can scare the heck out of them by his movements. And that's the story, really. That's the ghost story of Peter Kakua. Now, how many islands in the Northwest have an axe murderer buried on their shores that nobody knows where it is?
Wow.
He's here. Listen.
A quick break now. When we come back, more of the ghost story from right here at the Ross Bay Cemetery, and Dan Kahn goes trolling for more Halloween stories.
Do you know what's happening? Well, we do. Here's what's happening. Some of the best chefs in Victoria square off in the Chef of the Year competition on November 18th. Starting with a canap and champagne reception, the evening proceeds with a 4-course meal with wine. Each guest receives complimentary gift basket and will be entered for many door prizes. Get your tickets now by emailing chef@kitchensofdistinction.ca. If you have a chronic disease, you can live a healthy life. 6 free afternoon workshops in chronic disease self-management will be offered at the Pender Island Healthcare Center starting November 7th. Registration is required. Build knowledge, skills, and confidence. Learn more on the website at selfmanagementbc.ca. And that's what's happening.
Welcome back to our Halloween Howling special right here on Shaw TV. We're down here in Ross Bay Cemetery with John Adams talking about a story, and we are at where he's been sentenced to life.
Lawrence Whalen was sentenced to life, although in the end he got out after a couple of years and went back to the States. We have no idea where he went after that. Begbie was furious about this through his entire life. However, David Fee, the one who was shot by accident, has returned. And he appears in 2 places. One, not surprisingly, is where he was gunned down. Right beside the present cathedral along View Street, people walking along there often just feel uneasy. Sometimes that's how ghosts let us know they're there. Just a cold feeling, even on a warm day, a tingle down your spine. You might see something flit by, you move on. But sometimes they see him. Without knowing exactly who he is, they see a figure in white. Not all ghosts appear in white, but he certainly does for obvious reasons because he was wearing a white clown suit. But suddenly they see him and then he's gone. But they realize, I've seen a ghost, and it's a classic ghost, a figure in white, shimmering. You can see through him gliding along the sidewalk, and then suddenly he's gone. But ghosts can actually appear in more than one place. And so it's not surprising that we can tell a story about him here as well.
And John Adams, of course, will be back with the ending of his story about Fee. We're down here in Ross Bay Cemetery, and it's not just that you can see the ghosts that are buried here. You also, like he said, you see them around town. And so he'll be telling you where else you can see Fee in the daytime, because sometimes you're not allowed here in Ross Bay Cemetery at nighttime. It always surprises me how big Halloween is here on the South Island. I bet it's probably bigger than some of the other places in Canada. Dan Kahn wanted to know what your Halloween story was, because we all have a good Halloween or ghost story. It's his next installment of Talk to Me, Halloween edition.
You're looking for trouble? You came to the right place. You're looking for trouble? Just look right in my face. I was born standing up, talking back. My daddy was so green, I had Mountain Jack. Today on Talk to Me, man, Halloween, baby, Halloween. Hear me, huh?
I got a hunk of burning love for you.
You look good. Oh, thanks, honey. I looked her square in the eye. Because that's all she had, just one big square eye right in the middle of her head.
You need to gain some weight.
Hey, man, can I talk to you? Come on, man, let me talk to you. What's your favorite Halloween costume of all time?
Oh, that's a hard one. Kind of zombie anything. Jelly beans.
Well, since my baby left me, I'll be so blue, just thinking about you. People love the zombie.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's easy.
Well, so am I. You get that, man? Easy, baby. Ha! Ha! I hurt my hip. I hurt my hip.
I was just a Little Red Riding Hood, so that was pretty good.
Oh, no, was it like a classic Red Riding Hood, or was it a sexy Red Riding Hood?
It was a hot Red Riding Hood.
That's a nice picture. You look very pretty. Is there any way I can get you to email me that? No, that'd be wrong. No, of course not. That's wrong. You know, sometimes I just started doing this. I don't know what. It just started happening to me. Well, what's your favorite Halloween treat?
I'm sorry, I don't eat candy.
You don't eat candy?
I think Reese's.
Those rockets that kind of look like little pills.
Oh, those are good, man. I like anything that looks like a little pill. You want some of that, man, huh? Yeah, you're afraid to look at me, aren't you? You're afraid of losing it, because I'm pretty damn hot in this costume. You get so tough to read your paper. You want to, ha! Huh? Oh, man.
Bit of honey.
Bit of honey? That's a candy?
Yeah.
Never heard of that one. What's it taste like?
Peanut butter.
Well, since my own baby left me.
The traditional candy corn.
Oh, man, those are good. What's the worst Halloween candy?
An apple.
An apple. Yeah, who'd put an apple? That's another thing, too. I don't want to see more apples on Halloween. They're supposed to be candy.
Black and orange.
Oh, those are disgusting, man.
Black licorice.
Oh, black licorice, man, that is terrible. Oh, the chicks love that one, man. You're gonna miss some of that. Ha, ha, ha. Well, it's shaking for you. Ha, ha, ha. I'm sorry, I don't have time for autographs, but maybe another time. Maybe I got time for one karate chop, man. What about that, huh? Pretty women, I just start shaking a bit. Well, I was actually born in Tupelo, Mississippi.
That's what I figured, because you have kind of an American accent.
Yeah. We drifted apart. Huh?
Oh, very nice. Let me give you a hug.
Yeah, that does it every time, man. I'd like to thank Charlotte at Victoria Costumes in Brentwood Bay for loaning me this suit. God bless you, Charlotte. God bless you. Thank you very much. Next time you see me, honey, talk to me, will you?
Ghosts are seen both in the daytime and at nighttime. He was killed close to midnight on Christmas Eve 1890. He is seen and experienced mostly in the evening, but sometimes people sense the presence in the daytime. But ghosts often do make themselves known in the daytime as well. And here at Ross Bay Cemetery, David Fee appears in the daytime. And I know that because years ago, long before I knew the story of David Fee and his death, grounds workers here told me about this monument. They didn't know who the Fee family was. They had no idea who David Fee was. But they said, yes, there is a ghost here. They had seen him many times. A figure, a tall figure in white, hovering right here. They had no idea who he was, although they assumed he must have something to do with his grave. They described him as a classic ghost, shimmering, and then he disappeared. But many of them said when they saw him, there was something a little different about it because there seemed to be a large red mark in the middle of his chest. And they wondered if perhaps the man had been shot. Well, of course, David Fee was shot. But the newspaper account that gives a very detailed description of the clown suit he was wearing tells us that there was a large red pom-pom right in the middle of the chest.
Wow. And people still see that.
People see that quite frequently right here.
That's amazing. And in the daytime, daytime you were saying?
The people who see the ghost here really do see him mostly in the daytime, as far as we know. It is actually not allowed to be in the cemetery. There's a city bylaw that prevents people from being in the cemetery, and there are patrols around Halloween, so we don't encourage anybody to come in here at night. Ghosts like David Fee and Isabella Ross and many others are seen in the daytime.
Now, do you ever get scared telling these stories and walking through here yourself?
No, I lived next to the cemetery when I was a kid, and although I had a few frightening moments, no, I'm not scared in the cemetery at all. Perhaps we get used to those sorts of things. But of course, I deal in ghosts all the time, and I've been frightened a few times, but probably most of the time not.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, John. That was great. And if people want to come out and hear more stories, they can come on the Ghostly Tour.
If people want to hear more stories, Halloween night down in Bastion Square, starting in the Bedford Regency Hotel. We have 4 tours at 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, and 9:30. No reservations are needed, and we'll take as many people as come through the back streets and alleys of Old Town, through Helmkin Alley, into Bastion Square, where we actually rent a room right next to the Maritime Museum, a very haunted place, and we'll tell all the stories there.
There you go.
But if people want a little bit more about David Fee and some of the other classic ghosts and murders connected with Ross Bay Cemetery, Sunday, November the 4th at 2 p.m., one of our Old Cemetery Society members, Michael Hallowe'en, is going to be doing his annual tour called Murder Most Foul. And, well, I don't know if he's going to be including the story of David Fee, but he often does. But he's got in his notebook a huge amount of stories of murders. It's one of the most popular tours of the year. So Sunday at 2 p.m., meeting at Fairfield Plaza.
And if people want more information throughout the year, where can they go?
The easiest place to get the information is from my website, which is discoverthepast.com.
All right, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
That scared me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Oh my God, something just touched me. We gotta go, we gotta go, come on. In a cemetery, really, Sucheta? In a cemetery? Now I'm gonna be haunted for like, oh my God.
What if the ghost falls?
What?
I don't know. What if the ghost falls?
No, they can't. Oh, this is great. Now I'm gonna be haunted for the rest of my life.